Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 98. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. In 2004, I was in Okinawa for a training trip. It was a really great trip, and I had the opportunity of working with some SF guys. I had never worked with any Army Special Forces yet, and I had been looking forward to that trip and that opportunity. Now, this group of guys were all much older and much more experienced than all of us. I remember noticing that right away when we met this group that we were going to be doing some maritime training with. They all seemed really cool and were good to work with. There was no issues, no drama, but I could sense a little bit of friction from some comments and questions that were being made. But I was a new guy, and so I really didn't know how to address it, if I should address it, if it needed to be addressed. And honestly, I just figured maybe it was just a thing. Maybe it was their personality. I just wasn't really reading into it too much. It was a beautiful day. And I remember we were loading up onto the helicopters, getting ready to take off. And I was just sitting there smiling. Well, because it's kind of what I did a lot of when I was in the SEAL teams, because I love my job and I love being a Navy SEAL. And I mean, we're in Okinawa, Japan, doing some training, and it had been an awesome trip. And I just remember how beautiful the day was and just being happy. And I remember looking over at one of the SF guys, and I was just smiling, looking around, and I was like, looked over at him. We made eye contact, and I was just smiling and gave him the little cool guy head nod. And he just sat there for a minute, just straight up looking at me, no emotion. And then he cracked. He cracked a little smile, nodded back at me. And I just remember like how I felt in that moment. I was excited to do the training. I was a little nervous to do the training. And, that was like the first little like interaction I was getting to have with another branch actually doing training together. And it was just really cool. It was a really cool opportunity. So we, helicopters take off. We get out to our drop zone over some water and drop the boats out of the back of the helicopters. We all jump out after them. We swim over to the boats, get the boat set up, and then we start navigating back. But here's the deal. As the SEALs, we weren't doing anything. I mean, obviously we were there to help, and we would help, and we did help, but it was all these SF guys. It was all them. They were doing everything, navigating. They set up the boats. They did all the stuff. And while we were on the transition back, one of the older guys was asking us why we were doing the training with them. And he wasn't being a jerk towards us, but he's just kind of wondering because we weren't a part of like any of it. I mean, we were just there, which I even kind of thought was a little weird because I wanted to help. I wanted to be a part of it. And one of the older SEALs in my platoon responded and told him that our leadership had told us that we were required to go out there because their leadership required us being there with them because we were the, quote, maritime experts as SEALs. And I remember seeing a few of them kind of get pissed off at that answer. At first, it didn't click with me why they would be pissed off. I mean, because honestly, my ego was telling me like, yeah, we are the maritime experts and we absolutely should be here to help these guys. But I recognized we weren't doing anything to help them. It's not like we were having to teach them how to navigate or we weren't having to teach them how to set up the engines on the boats. We didn't have to teach them how to jump out of the helicopter into the water, and we didn't have to teach them how to put their fins on and swim over. We didn't have to teach them to do anything. But even though I was young and dumb, and I heard my ego kind of tell me, yeah, we should be there, I quickly was able to recognize and quote, read the room by the expressions of these guys. And even my SEAL buddies, like the older guys in the platoon, this just did not make sense. And they expressed their frustration. And I remember as we were on our transit ride back, and we're all getting splashed with water, and we're just headed back, and guys are like talking through it. You can see the frustration, but what was really cool is it was not directed towards us. I remember looking at this guy, and you could see the frustration on his face, but he was processing it all. And what I thought was really cool is he was being very professional towards us. Very professional towards us. Again, it wasn't directed towards us. And he could have said a bunch of things towards me and all the guys about our age and our experience. I mean, this guy, I remember he made a comment specifically. He said, so you're telling me with my 17 years of experience, I need young Navy SEALs to teach me how to do this? And again, that wasn't towards me. It wasn't towards anybody else. And we were young. I was young, on that first workup and deployment. I mean, I was 21 at the time. I hadn't even turned 22. I didn't turn 22 until we got to Iraq on that first deployment. So I'm 21 years old. If basic math, if that guy joined when he was right when he was 18 and did 17 years, he's 35 years old. And I'm 21 on my first deployment. And Benny and the other guys, I mean, they're not that much older than me. And it's obvious we're young. And I just remember kind of just as we're wow, 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 wow of the engine, the sound of the engine of the boats, and you're hitting the waves and you're just going back and we're all getting splashed. And I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at this guy and he just kind of was processing it and then smiles and just whatever. We got back and it was a good training trip and, we did our debrief and everything else like that. But man, I've always thought of that little training mission that we did with these guys. This training exercise would probably be a better phrase. And how those guys handled it. I mean, rightfully so. They were frustrated. I mean, Army Special Forces, guys been doing that for 17 years. Now, I don't know if he had been in for 17 years or been SF for 17 years. I assume SF for 17 years by the way he said it, but yeah. I mean, even that. So if you're thinking about that, I mean, he definitely didn't become SF when he was 18. So he was probably in his early 40s, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or late 30s, maybe. I don't know. Who cares?
He's probably around our age right now.
I just remember he was really old. No, I remember looking at that guy. I'm like, this guy is salty and he is old. Dude, he was such a nice guy, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I share that story. It's just, I have random thoughts that come in my mind. And, there's a lot of things that we can talk about and digest on that one. I mean, the first one I think that is the most important one is how he treated us. Yeah. He was respectful. He could have been a just complete jerk to us. There could have been a lot of friction on that trip. It could have been a lot of like rock, paper, rank. Like, no, you're going to do it this way. Hey, we're here. Hey, we're the SEALs. We're the maritime experts. Hey, our leadership told us that your leadership said we have to be here. Hey, and he probably been like, all right, cool. Roger that. What do you want me to do? But there was none of that. And also it stemmed from the attitude of my older guys, like Steve Chira, Benny that I've talked about. I wish I could say some of the. I've talked about Pepper. You know what I mean? Like these are like legit guys that I looked up to that also understood the value of relationships.
Yeah.
And anyways, I thought it was a cool training opportunity. Man, I wish. I wish one of the things I would have, if I could go back and do things over. I know I've thought about this a lot from the guys in Ramadi, but man, I wish I would have. Captured contact information and kept in touch with the guys. But I wish I would have done that with these guys. It
was a lot harder to do at that period of time, though.
It was email.
Yeah.
It was like first and last and then email. And and I don't even have that email still.
Right.
Because I had a stupid email back in the day.
I think we've all have multiple stupid emails.
It wasn't inappropriate, but it was just...
Yeah. I still have a couple of my stupid emails.
Pretty lame. Not gonna lie. It was actually really lame. One of my guys.
You guys just think back to the first couple of email addresses that you created for yourself when you were
especially when you're
15.
Young and you're in the Navy and it's your first email that you're setting up. And yeah. I'm not even gonna say it because I don't want
you write it down and tell me later.
No. No,
it's that embarrassing.
No,
it's that bad.
I mean, I don't think you'd use it again. Yeah, actually, you would.
Probably.
You 100% would. Yeah. There'd be some stupid shirt that'd come out with it. Oh, man. Actually, one of my buddies, Wes, he bro, one of my best friends in the teams, it was our corpsman. He would always be like, "Hey JP, what's your email again?" Like when like in the computer room, "Hey, I need to send you an email." I'm like, "You have it." He's like, "I just want to make sure it's still on." I'm like, "Bro," and he'd be like, he just look at me and laugh. I'm like, oh.
And changing email addresses is one of the like hardest things to do nowadays because it's like so locked into everything that you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I know we've had some different questions. I want to open that up.
And listening to that story, like one of the things that I think is really interesting about that is one, it highlights, as we've talked about before, kind of the bureaucracy of the American fighting forces.
Yeah, that's one of my. I know we've talked about this before. I love when companies like, you don't understand the bureaucracy here, and I just smile. And I pause and I say, have you ever heard of the U.S. Navy?
Yeah. And it's like, this is, if you want to talk about a perfect example of this, like, why are you guys here? Because your leadership told our leadership they thought we needed to be here. It's like, okay. So does anybody know what we're doing? No. Does anybody know who's, like, literally at this point, who's in charge? Your guys told our guys that we're in charge.
We're there to advise their training.
Yeah. It's
crazy, bro.
It's just you want to talk about an absolute example of bureaucracy at its height.
And not even, and like, think about like the opportunity you had. What if we would have done a joint training operation and had some planning, doing all these things together? Like,
yep.
No, we're just there to
observe.
Like, I'm there at 21, my first platoon, right?
Yeah.
I'm there to observe an SF guy with 17 years. Yeah. No wonder some SF guys.
Dirt's older cousin is sitting there.
Yeah, like, thank goodness this guy was awesome. And, I have nothing but love for all the soldiers, Marines, Air Force I've ever worked with, right? Mm-hmm. All those guys. Nothing but love. And I obviously love our Coast Guard. I just have never worked with them, right? And, I'll have people like, oh, you didn't mention the Coast Guard. I'm like, because I didn't work with them.
They didn't do a lot in Iraq and Okinawa,
or Afghanistan. Yeah, I'm sorry, and then,
sort of
I'll also have people after my talks will be like, hey, you didn't mention the Air Force. And I'm like, well, because they weren't with us in Ramadi. They're like, well, they were deployed. I'm like, I know that I can't talk about what they were doing or what I did with them because I wasn't with them. I didn't do anything with them.
Yeah.
And obviously, I have nothing but love for the Air Force. Almost all my family is served in the Air Force, you know? Anyways, so it's just very unique.
It kind of cracks me up to see that. And then, you talk about the value of relationship building and you talk, we'll get into some cover and move stuff. That was just an eye roll moment because that's so ingrained in the culture. And I do think that, we can highlight this for an opportunity to talk about cover and move, that when there is an institutional culture of bureaucracy and a place where you guys don't know why you're there, and then it, kind of comes out through the course of the training mission that you're watching people who have more experience than you that don't need your help and really are in a position where they kind of have every right to resent the fact that you're existing in the same space as them for the reason that they put you there. Like, why do we need babysitters? Why doesn't our leadership trust us? Whatever. And they chose to instead just kind of roll their eyes at it and be like,
cool.
Whatever. All right, whatever. Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, it wasn't directed towards myself or my guys. And,
but if it would have been at any point, if like,
there would have been some egos from our guys,
right?
In regards to like, hey, this is why we're here. We were told, and luckily, like I said, the older guys in my platoon set a really good example.
Yeah,
they set a really good example. The tone was good, and those guys received it well. And there was no, measuring contest back and forth. It was. Anyways, I really like those guys. They're really cool. Really good interaction. But, I could definitely see how if any of our guys would have been egotistical jerks towards them, it would have been another reason for them to be like, dude, screw SEALs. I hate SEALs. They're jerks. And I could see why other branches think that towards SEALs, because guess what SEALs have done before in the past? Been egotistical jerks. Here's the other thing. I've also seen SF guys be egotistical jerks towards our guys and other regular conventional units. I've also seen Marines be egotistical jerks towards SEALs, towards soldiers, towards, SF guys. Like, I've seen it, right? And I've received it. And I've also seen some of our guys do it. It's just an unfortunate thing.
Well, and humility does kind of win the day whenever it comes to this kind of stuff. And I think that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned there, because in the corporate world, I've been put in a lot of situations where I ended up being put in charge of a situation that I really, at the end of the day, I didn't have any business being put in charge of.
Yeah.
Right? When I was working at an office supply store, one of the big box stores at the time, I was a tech manager, and we had a bunch of guys in the warehouse. The warehouse manager wasn't going to be there for several weeks, and so they put me in charge of the warehouse. I don't know how to do anything in the warehouse, but I'm supposed to go into the warehouse and tell all the guys what to do, make their schedules, and start from scratch and figure all of this out in a couple of weeks. Now I can go into the warehouse and do what some guys did previously, and what I found out later they were anticipating that I do, is go into the warehouse, know nothing, think that the warehouse guys are idiots because they just have forklifts and boxes and just put stuff up, and then determine over the course of the week or two that the manager's on vacation that I've figured out smarter and better ways to do everything that they've spent 5-10 years doing and putting together. And then the other thing is, I had a couple of years under my belt. I knew this wasn't going to be a long-term gig for me. And at the end of it, I go back there to the warehouse guys, and one of the guys, I was like, I want to help you guys out. Do you have any advice for me? He's like, shut up and stay out of our way. It's like, okay,
cool. Awesome.
Roger that. So,
which valid, but also could have been presented a different way.
100%,
for sure.
Right? But I'm also like, okay, I'm fine with that. Just kind of check on a couple of things, asked a couple of pretty easy questions. And then he was like, listen, we just need you here because we've got to have someone else give a signature, right? Somebody that they trust, give a signature, and his same kind of attitude. I've been here for 10 years. They don't trust me enough to sign this piece of paper whenever our boss is gone.
It's so crazy, bro.
Yeah. But there's systems and things like that in place. So when I went back and checked on the warehouse guys, all I did was bring them donuts and coffee. And by the end of it, like, I'm not having to ask questions for anything. I'm not having to chase the guys down because the young guys got to sign a piece of paper or whatever. They're like, hey, appreciate you. And then the next time, whenever their boss was going out of town, they're asking if I can come over and do it. It's a simple thing of just, when you're put in those positions, you can choose to throw around whatever weight or authority you feel like you've been given, or to allow the guys to operate, to take opportunities and observe. And I think this is where a lot of people get themselves in trouble whenever they come in as a new leader in an established environment, particularly young leaders, that, hey, you know what? You're going to take over a department. The team's been together for 15 years. Their boss put them all together. They're retired. He just retired. He was incredibly loved. We've got a friend who his company just got acquired. A guy, family business, started it from the ground up, got acquired by an international conglomerate, and they're a little nervous about things. But that guy, the very first thing that their boss came in and said, it was like, hey, we're not going to change anything for like 5 years because we want to see how you guys run and operate.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the young leaders that come in, well, it's smart if they follow through on it. And that's always the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of young leaders that come in, they're like, oh, we're going to be, go-getters. I got to make my mark on the company. I got to do this. And what you really end up doing is alienating your team. So,
yeah. I want to retract what I said. I said that's smart. That's actually not smart.
Okay.
It's good to observe, but for 5 years to not change anything, that's not smart. Because if you're being acquired by a larger company who has better systems, a bigger budget, you're going to change things.
Yeah.
And you should.
Need to.
You would want to. I mean, that's what Groundworks does. They come in, they acquire these small to medium and even large, basement foundational repair companies. and they keep the owners on. They keep the leadership on board, and then they make changes so that they can become a part of, it's the Groundworks way.
Right.
And that's actually part of the selling point that Groundworks has. Like, hey, we're going to come in. We want your leadership to stay in place. We want these things. But here's all the things we're going to change to make you guys more efficient, more effective. We're going to bring in regional leadership, which you've never had before. Some of these businesses that they acquire, they have sales, but they don't have any structure to their sales. Yeah. And so now all of a sudden Groundworks is bringing in a sales manager. And, and then they're also bringing in training, and they're bringing in money for new equipment and SOPs and safety. Some of these companies don't even have a safety department. It's just like, hey, this is what we do to stay safe, but they don't have safety training. They don't have, and now Groundworks comes in and they have this and this. They have driver training. They have all these things. So they're making these people more efficient, more effective. So I retract what I said. There should be changes when you're being acquired by a larger company, but there's a way to do it properly. And I think, a slow shift is smart. And also you should want some changes to be made that are going to better you and your team, but also not coming in and just revamping everything and changing everything and cleaning house. That I think is never a really good thing long-term for culture.
When we look at cover and move in particular, like there's such a large part of it that is peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
And so you'd expect if you acquired a company that the owner of the company will come in and talk to the new organization and say, hey, listen, here's some things that are happening. Here's some friction points. I'm trying to get fixed. Help me with that. You will find it a lot in the same like middle management circles. It's like, hey, somebody from my team was contacted by somebody from your team and says that, X, Y, and Z are happening, or that there's maybe some issues and stuff that you're not aware of. Want to make sure that you don't get blindsided by it, whatever, or hey, I'm going on vacation, X, Y, or Z, whatever that needs to be for basic cover and move. With a lot of the things in the extreme ownership, the laws of combat, we see how you can do these things up and down the chain of command. What does cover and move look like up the chain of command? Because that's one that, when we talk about it, we use a lot of the examples, they're kind of peer-to-peer or top-down, right? There's ways that we can cover and move and help out our employees. But what's cover and move look like up the chain of command?
So, I've done this my whole life because I was always, and everybody always has somebody above them, right? But I was always that younger frontline leader or frontline individual, had some low-level leadership responsibilities, and then when I was at the training command, getting in positions of leadership for, running different blocks of training, and then the opportunity that I had to build out the marksmanship cell for all the West Coast SEAL teams, which was our shooting training, and being a part of revamping the combatives program. There's a lot of, like, as I think back, like, oh, that was a cool opportunity, to be able to do those things. When you ask that question, the first thing I think of was showing my leadership respect.
Okay.
Like, that's my first thing. Like, if I want to be able to cover and move up the chain of command, which means, build relationships with my leadership, I need to show them respect. I also need to be a hard worker and not challenging them and not pushing back and not complaining and not dragging my feet. So when Seth would ask me to do things, my default response was, Roger that. Like, hell yeah, let's go. Now, there was a time I asked questions. Yeah, almost every single time. But I was never questioning him. I was never questioning my platoon chief. I was never questioning Benny. I was never questioning Doug or Pepper or Steve or any of these guys, Now, there might have been some times I thought I was questioning them because my tone or the way I was asking those questions wasn't proper. But my intent, I can tell you right now, my intent was never like to question them or push back. Now, did I phrase it the right way all the time? Absolutely not. I was young. I was immature. I'm a human. I make mistakes. I'm having a bad day. My tone comes off the wrong way, or I don't think about the way I'm structuring my sentence, or, that I definitely caused that friction. I want to be very clear on that. But I respect my leadership. Yeah. And I really valued my leadership. My first OIC, Matt Mosdom, great guy. He had a lot of patience with me. And I remember, man, I was at the training command and I was on leave out in the East Coast. And I remember thinking about how we'd gone out to, before our first deployment, we went to the Secret Service driving school.
Pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Did you have to wear suits whenever you were driving in the Secret Service driving school?
Yeah, we wore suits during our training because that was part of the training. Was like
that was legit,
like wearing suits and
because that's a
we
pretty
don't wear them all the time.
Restrictive piece of
it can be
attire.
It can be if you don't have the right tailored suits. And the suits that we had were tailored to where you could carry and low vis body armor on underneath. We didn't wear it all the time, but we definitely wore it during the training, and you're getting used to that. But man, I remember there's just times I was just stupid. I was immature and I was acting like a jackwagon, right? And I remember when I was back out on the East Coast thinking back to that, and I remember I called him and I was just like, hey, I'm sorry. I'm just like thinking back to like when I remember I was just like
a random call to apologize.
Yeah, and I called Seth too. And I was like, man, I'm really sorry. Like I was young, I was immature. Like you guys were good leaders to me. You took care of me. You guided me. You corrected me a lot when I needed that correction, and I needed that correction. And I remember Matt Mosnum, Mr. Mosnum, just kind of chuckling. He's like, JP, it's all good. He goes, you're a good new guy. You cared. You're a hard worker. Like he goes, you were a good SEAL. And Seth would say the same thing. Every time I would apologize to Seth, I'd think about something random and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to call him and apologize. He always would just like laugh. He's like, bro, you're good.
Yeah.
You're a good SEAL. You cared. Hey, and Seth would be like, you were just like me when I was that age. And so I think that's what made Seth such a good leader, and the just incredible connection I had with Seth is because he could relate to me. Yeah. And he was able to think back. And that's, Jocko said that, when I've been on his podcast a few times, he'd say the same thing. He's like, bro, you were like my little brother. Yeah. Because I saw myself in you. And so I think the root of being able to do cover move properly with your leadership is show them respect and work hard. Like you want to make them look good. Yeah. That's what I want. I wanted my bosses to look good. I wanted Benny to look good. I wanted Benny to be proud of me, man. I wanted Seth to be proud of me. I wanted Steve to be proud of me. I wanted Pepper to be proud of me. I wanted these guys to be proud of me, and which would, drive me to work hard. Yeah. And there was times when I'm like getting ready to do something stupid because I'm young and immature and I'm dumb and I'm having a lapse in my judgment. And I'd be like, maybe I shouldn't do that. Or after I would do something, I'd be like, man, I shouldn't have done that. To me, when you do that, it also allows you to lead up the chain of command. So when people talk about decentralized command and how do you lead up the chain of command, it's not that hard. It's not hard if you're building really good relationships. And that's why all of the 4 laws of combat that we talk about tie in together. But the first one that we teach and we talk about is cover move, which is the base and foundation of everything that we do. And the last one is decentralized command, and it encapsulates all 4 of those principles. Yeah. And so if you don't have really good, strong relationships with your leadership, you're never going to be able to lead up the chain of command. And that's what cover move is relationships.
And the thing about the story that you told at the beginning that I think is really interesting is that you guys were in the boats together on this training exercise, but you're still siloed because the SEALs are with the SEALs, the Special Forces guy, the SF guys are still with the SF group.
No, we're all in the same boats.
Well, yeah. I mean, like as far as
doing the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. There wasn't a joint training thing, which what you talked about. Like if this would have been a joint training thing, it could have been way more dynamic. It could have been better all the way across the board. But you and your guys are still kind of hanging out with each other.
We're just watching them like set up the boats. Right. And obviously we were like offering to help, like, and we're going to help. We're going to lift stuff. We're going to do stuff. Sure. But it was for them to do the whole thing. It did the whole. It was just so strange.
But there's no intermingling really between the two of y'all. You get this one group that's kind of asking questions, and you guys are looking at each other for cues on how to do it.
Bro,
it's awkward.
Weird. It was super awkward.
But it's not a unique situation in a lot of corporate environments. We've got a really, really good friend of ours who works for a manufacturing company, and they have engineers and they have technicians. And whenever they come in and they have their meetings, the engineers sit on one side and the technicians sit on the other side.
Crazy.
They're in the same meetings together. They're given the same information. They process it completely differently. And nearly every time he's got some kind of frustration at work, what it comes down to is him and the head engineer and the head technician all have to get into a room and sort things out because everybody's processed the information differently. But they keep the departments, even though the meetings are together, all those things are happening, the departments are kept separate. And his big thing he's working on right now is trying to break those things down and get these two guys to work together, because if he can get them to work together, then maybe the teams will work better together.
Yeah.
And that happens so often, is that these silos are created, whether it's departmental, whether it is social cliques and things that kind of form. You know, that this is one of the big obstacles whenever you first try to implement cover and move, but it's also one of the things that, like, once cover and move gets implemented, if you allow silos or cliques or things to be created, that will immediately start to work against the principles that you're trying to teach. So first, how do you overcome silos? And then let's talk a little bit about how to prevent them from reforming once you get over them.
I think one of the first things to overcome silos is, identify the silos. So you have to ask yourself, okay, where are there some silos that are created? But we also have to understand that every organization has silos. Silos exist. It's how do you reduce the silos so that they don't create friction? You're never going to eliminate silos, because there will be. I mean, in Tasking a Bruiser, we had two big silos, Charlie Platoon and Delta Platoon. But those silos weren't in a manner that created conflict and friction. Sometimes it would, but not all the time, because we understood the brotherhood. One team, one fight was a real thing, and we wanted to help each other out. That was a very real thing in our culture. You also have to understand, like, what creates silos. Okay, well, physically, like, hey, you have this region and that region, then you have this shift and that shift, you have this team, and you have sales, you have marketing, you have operations, you have the engineering, you have the executive leadership team, you have supply chain, you have finance, those are all silos.
Yeah.
You have those silos, but you also have to understand, like, relationships create silos.
Yep.
When you have a really strong relationship with another person, that's going to create a silo. You can have a group of friends, and there's silos within those groups of friends because two people might have a much stronger relationship than the other people.
Yeah.
That's a silo right there.
Yeah. When you've got groups of married couples that hang out, right? Like, there's a bunch of good relationships there, but there's also, if three married couples are hanging out, there's three very distinct silos that are there.
Yeah. So just understanding, like, silos exist, and how do we reduce the friction from silos? How do we reduce the us versus them mindset? That's the way I process what you just said, is how can I reduce and eliminate us versus them? That's what I want. Cool. You can have your silo. I can have my silo, my shift, your shift. But what I don't want to allow is us versus them. That's a problem. And, I think, having empathy and the willingness to help the people around you is a great way to do that, is ask yourself, okay, what can I do to help them? And then when somebody does something that you're not a fan of, or you don't like, or it pisses you off, okay, have a little empathy for that person. Ask yourself what's going on, or like, hey, what are they dealing with that I don't know about?
Yep.
How can I help them? Well, you start talking to them. You ask questions, asking good, earnest questions in regards to what they have going on, why they're doing things a certain way, and adding in what can you do to help them. I always go back to what Jocko, Leif, and Seth did when we got to Ramadi, going up to those soldiers and Marines in leadership positions and saying, hey, what can we do to help you? Here's our capabilities. Here's what we can do. What are you doing? Why are you doing it this way? How are you doing it? And you have to ask those questions so that you can have information to make good decisions. And the other thing is, like, you cover for others because it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
You cover for others because it's the right thing to do, and you don't do it expecting anything back in return.
You should probably repeat that.
You cover for others because it's the right thing to do, and you do it because you don't expect anything in return. You do the right things for the right reasons. You're not keeping score. I'm not sitting here going, all right, hey, I helped Lucas with this, check. I helped him with this, check. You're stacking up your little check marks, expecting something back in return. No, you do the right thing for the right reasons. You cover for others because you genuinely care about them. You care about their team. You care about the organization. You care about them winning. One of the things that I've said this multiple times, and I say it at every FTX, sometime throughout a debrief or at the final closing. Jocko shared this at FTX 002 that we're doing in San Diego, and he said this quote. It was so powerful. I wrote it down. I mean, I share this at the muster. I share it as much as I can because I think it's a mindset all of us should strive to have. He said, when you care more about your team winning than you winning yourself, that is when you start to become a true leader. It's about your intent.
This is something that doesn't often get talked about enough. And that is this idea that like keeping that checkbox, because we all want to do it, right? We all want to have our relationships be completely reciprocated in effort. That as much effort as I put into my relationship with a given person, I want them to put in equal amount of effort there so that, everything's even. And so when we start
that's a natural feeling.
Yeah, right. So
it
is a very natural thing. And when we get into this thing that when we're keeping a record of these are all the things that I've done for you and they all need to be reciprocated, that is essentially, that's relationship poison, because it is building this unknown list of expectations. And what eventually becomes the only thing that you're focusing on is how this other person has not met your expectations for them. And the longer that goes unspoken, the longer that goes, it starts to build resentment. And the longer that list gets, and it's just relationship poison whenever we start to do that. But it is a very natural thing, and this is one of the things that we've talked about always with the laws of combat, is that they're counterintuitive. Doing the right thing for the right reason seems like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, we'll start doing it. And you're like, this is actually way harder. Than that. Taking out the trash for everybody in the office is the right thing for the right reason. It helps out everybody in the office, keeps the office clean, helps out the janitorial staff. Coming back from a long weekend where other people worked and finding that all the trashes are full and your trash is now overflowing because it was the easiest trash can to get to. Now it's really easy to be upset at everybody because I'm the one that always takes out the trash and blah, blah, blah. It's that little red hen syndrome. If you remember that old thing where the little red hen makes the bread and then she looks at everybody and they didn't want to help pick the wheat. They didn't want to help thresh the wheat. They didn't want to help turn it into flour. But everybody wants some of the bread. And she's like, what the heck? Nobody helps me do any of this stuff. That it really, at the end, if we're doing the right things for the right reasons, particularly if we are trying to elevate the team, none of those things really matter. Like, hey, you want part of it? Cool. If it's going to help everybody, like whatever. And it's not about, there has been this push in so much of the self-esteem movement and the self-worth and the self-value movement that a lot of people have gotten out of the mindset of being able to help others because they're feel like they're standing firm and like, well, I'm not going to be a doormat. I'm not going to let other people walk all over me. It's not when we do things for others and we're recovering, moving for others and they don't do it for us, you didn't just become a doormat. Yeah. You were a good teammate for doing the right things for the right reasons. Yeah. Like, just keep on going about it. If they truly suck, it's going to come out pretty quick. Yeah, and that they truly suck.
And there's also
it's going to be fine.
Yeah, and there's also an opportunity for you to help coach and guide them. Because if you have a good relationship, you can give them that feedback. And if you care about them, you're willing to have those hard conversations. I had a buddy recently that we jumped on a call, and man, I'm thankful for his friendship, and I'm thankful for him just just straight up telling me like, hey bro, like you pissed me off. You told me you were going to do this. You didn't do it. And he goes, for me to be like 100% in our friendship and relationship and what we're going to do moving forward, he goes, I just had to tell you. He goes, I love you. Yeah, that's actually what he started off with. He goes, hey, bro. He goes, I love you. I'm thankful for you. I care about you. Like, I love you, bro. But I'm pissed. He goes, you pissed me off. I was disappointed, and he just like talked through, and it wasn't anything major that I didn't do, but it was major. And the reason why I say it's major is someone's like, I told him I was going to call him and I didn't call him. And that was a big deal to him. And it's a big deal to me. And I had nothing to say other than, bro, I am so sorry. Because I can tell you right now, there wasn't one time that I was like, hey, I need to call so-and-so, and then I chose not to.
Yeah.
The times I was like, oh, I need to call him. I'm in the shower.
Right.
Or I'm on a flight where I can't call, you know what I mean? And then it's just like, I forget to put a reminder and I forget to follow up. Like a legitimate, like complete failure of my memory.
Yeah.
To call him. And dude, I just felt like absolutely horrible. And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I was like, man, I hope you can forgive me. He goes, I already have. He goes, I love you, bro. We're good. He goes, but if I wouldn't have, he goes, I knew that I needed to be able to tell you this so that we would be good. He goes, we were good. You wouldn't have known the difference, but I would. And I'm phrasing our conversation, right? Yeah. And I just remember sitting there, and I got emotional with myself, and I was just extremely disappointed in myself, and I was also extremely thankful for him. Now, I already respected this guy. We have a good relationship. Respected him a lot for what he's done and what he's doing and like what we'll all do together on this project. But man, I had even more respect for him when he was just able to be like, hey, bud. And man, I think, stuff like that strengthens relationships.
Yep.
Being willing to have hard conversation strengthens relationships. And if you really care, like what I said earlier, if you really care about somebody, you'll give them that feedback and give them some correction and then move on.
Yeah.
So,
and that kind of ties into the next thing we were talking about is how important empathy is and the willingness to help out whenever it comes to cover and move. And I think this is another thing that you can really point to up, down, and across the chain of command. And it's important to realize when you're putting your team together that there are going to be people that you're leading that have a better understanding of things and are better in some areas than you are. Mm-hmm. One of the things that when I was working at a printing facility, I had a boss who was really great with admin stuff, ran the team really well. Everybody loved him, but he was not always great at, even though he had great working relationships with everybody, he wasn't always great at reading whether or not people were in the best mental and emotional positions, because everybody put on their best face. His name was Ron. Everybody put on their best face for Ron because we all loved Ron. We worked hard for Ron. But there was a lot of times where, and I think this happens at a lot of places, that, if Ron was like, hey, how's everybody doing? We're like, hey, we're great, right? We're not going to let him in on that. Mm-hmm. And he took me aside and he was like, hey, but listen, I know that everybody puts on a good face for me, but here's what I need you to do. He's like, you have a good discernment whenever you read people. Everybody in the office, he's like, you're super social. It's like, yeah, he goes, I'm not looking for a tattletale. I was like, okay.
He needs a source.
And he's like, but here's what I need to know is we've been working long hours. We've had a lot of jobs. I was working third shift, so I'm working the overnight shift, which is where a lot of people are typically exhausted. I think most of us that were on the third shift, like we had 2 jobs. And he's like, here's what I need. I need you to give me the heads up if somebody's heading towards burnout.
Yeah.
Because I'm not there. And I don't have the opportunity to build relationships in third shift the way that I do in the others. And people are going to talk to you before they come talk to me. So I don't need details. I don't want any of that stuff. But if you can help me know, like, hey, this person's heading towards burnout, or this person seems like they're struggling, then, before it gets to me having to take disciplinary action because of something, I can make sure that they get the help and stuff that they need. It was great that Ron prompted me to do that because I was so young. It's not something I probably would have done knowingly.
Yeah.
But it may have been one of those things that, like, unknowingly I had been doing. And so he asked me to do that. That has been invaluable for me in my leadership, is to find somebody that I know, you've got good relationships with them, and just ask them, hey, listen, I don't need details of the stuff that's going on, but if you think something's up, let me know.
Yeah.
And if your boss doesn't ask for that, it's also not a bad thing to just
give that to them.
Yeah. Offer it up after the meeting.
Hey, heads up. Just wanted to let you know. I've done that.
Yeah. Like, hey,
a lot.
You may want to go check on Evan, right? Like, if he wants to tell you about details and stuff, it's there, but he's got a little extra stress. So you may want to go check on him. Yeah. It would do him good to have a visit from the boss.
Seth would do that with Benny and I. Hey, how are the guys?
Yeah.
What's going on? Hey, how's so-and-so? And we had a really good relationship with Seth, and we had a really good relationship with each other, and we had a really good relationship with our guys. And Seth was never wanting a tattletale.
Right.
Like, it's actually the opposite. Like, if we were like tattletaling to Seth, he'd probably tell us to shut up and get out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because he didn't like that. He was against that, and he didn't want the drama. But he wanted to make sure his guys were taken care of. Like, hey, how's so-and-so? Is he good? And Jocko's the same way. He would, hey, what's going on? Hey, is so-and-so, and he would, as we call them, work his sources.
Yeah, right. And it is something about those quick reports, but it's also, man, when the more elevated you get in leadership, the more challenging it is to build those deep relationships with the people, not just that are like, one level down on the org chart from you, but also, 2-3 levels. Like, the frontline guys are much more difficult to build relationships with than they were before. And there's a certain level of appropriateness in those relationships that you've got to worry about. And it's more than just, is it okay for me to have this relationship with this person? And, like, what am I communicating to the organization?
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things that complicate it, but it's easy to be empathetic, to use the indirect approach, to ask the people under you, hey, make sure your people are okay. And that is something that trickles down. It is keeps an organization tied together so that cover and move can happen. Yeah. We've talked about this before. I'm not crazy about the idea of vacations. Like, I like the beach, right? But I like working. I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
And Kirsten really wants a vacation, right? We've been talking about it, and as soon as these conversations come up, they kind of stress me out. Like, what am I going to be doing whenever we're there? She's like, oh, we're just going to go have fun. Okay.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What does that look like? And it wasn't something that we grew up doing a lot. Like, we had a handful of them like throughout, but, and they're all good memories. So it's not like I'm anti-vacation. Just the whole idea of it is something that completely, like, puts me in a little bit of a what the heck. Like, I'm just going to take time off and just go do nothing productive. And, it was one thing when it felt like it was PTO, and this is what I'm getting at, is that I had a couple of bosses over the course of my career and different things that came to me and they were like, I'm forcing you to take a vacation. Like, why? And they're like, you just need a couple of days where you do nothing. Like, it'll be so good for you. And I fought it. I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Why would I do that? But I don't know what they saw in what I was doing, what they heard from maybe some of the other guys that I worked with, but they came to me and one guy in particular was like, your PTO does not carry over. And I was like, okay. He's like, you've earned 6 weeks of vacation over the last 2 years. You're going to lose it all.
Take it right now.
Yeah. I'm like, well, can we cash it out? And he's like, you're not, first off, no. Second, what kind of question is that? And then he eventually was like, is there, and he didn't, he's like, go someplace, do something. I was like, nah, I don't want to. He's like, is there a video game that you want to go play? It's like, I don't know, maybe. He's like, cool, sleep till noon every day, play that video game for a few hours, go work out, and then go back to sleep. I don't care what you do. You just can't be here. And I didn't get it then, but looking back, there are probably some times where those guys really saw in me the need to go do something. As much as I felt like I was still performing at a high level, as much as I enjoyed the work that I was doing and the people that I was doing the work with, they recognized, like, if you keep at this pace, you're going to lose it. And so eventually that same boss who told me I had like 6 weeks of vacation built up over 2 years, every quarter he would come to me and he'd be like, which week are you taking for vacation? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're building up your vacation time. He was keeping track of it for me.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to make sure that you take
That's some solid cover move.
2 days, 3 days, a week over this course of time, and just figure it out. Go do something, go to the woods, just don't be here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you are, that burnout's going to come.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't care who you are. And all the
or how much you think you love what you do.
And also, like, don't be fooled by the people you follow on social media and just think that they're grinding it out every single day and they don't take time off. That doesn't happen, right? Jocko takes a lot of time off every September for hunting, and that's his reset, and he's also intentional with his time with his family and things like that as well, and the perception that some people put on social media, I'm not saying that Jocko does this, but there are some other people out there that people follow that act like the grind never stops and this is what I'm doing every day. I don't take breaks. I don't take vacations. Like, okay, cool. That sucks. Like, you're lying.
Yeah. That's the part that sucks, is that you're not being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because their ego gets involved and they're acting like they're doing more than they want. But going back to what you said, I think it's cool. Like that, it's a cool version of cover move that your leadership was providing for you, knowing like, hey, you need the time off. Also, like, whether you needed it or not at that moment, maybe at this moment in your life, because of age and things that's going on, like, you could have just been fine, like, pushing through.
Yeah, dumb, and full of inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't have been upset that you lost your PTO, but later down the road, you might have looked back and be like, man, I wish I would have taken that time.
Yeah.
That's stupid. Here's the other thing. Like, you take that time with your family or your friends, like, go create memories. Like, that's what life is about. Is like, go do awesome stuff. Go create memories, just go, what's the point of just working all the time if you can't enjoy what you're doing? What's the point of saving up all the money if you're not going to spend it to do cool things, And I was struggling with that a few years ago. Actually, it was more than that. It was like maybe 3-4 years ago. And we were taking a family vacation, and I was all stressed out because I'm very similar to you with those things. But, it's important for my wife, my kids. And, I also knew that we needed it. And things were like just changing on the family vacation last minute. And I was getting pissed off, and I was all irritated. And I was talking with my buddies. And he just straight up told me, he's like, bro, make that trip epic. He goes, what's the point of working as hard as you work to not spend the money that you have saved on your family? Yeah. Because if you don't want to spend it on yourself, that's fine. I get it. But spend it on your family. Like, spoil your wife and your kids. And I was just like, that doesn't mean be reckless and waste your money. Yeah. But it was,
don't come back like scraping.
Where I'm like, oh my gosh, we have nothing in savings. Your credit card's maxed out. You're an idiot. And you're like, no. But, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, you're right. Yeah. And we rented a house on the beach down in Destin, and a little outside of my comfort zone of what I normally would have done, but it was awesome. And it was just such a time of just
enjoyment.
Yeah, because it was a private area. So there was nobody there other than the residents of that neighborhood.
That's right.
Or the people renting the house. So for me, it was actually way better because I didn't have to worry about my kids, with other random people that are drunk being idiots. I didn't have to worry about them hearing music that didn't want them hearing, or seeing things I didn't want them seeing. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, oh, this is really worth it. And having our own little beach chair section in front of our house that nobody could set up their chairs in front of us, or it was, dude, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm glad I did it and that changed the perspective of just taking that time for my family. and understanding how important that was for my family. And, and that's how it was for me last year with the backpacking trip. And that's how it has been for every year for Origin Immersion Camp. It's on my calendar every year. Like, I'm going to be there. That's what I do. P. Roberts is one of my best friends. So being able to go spend some time with him and learn from him, and, and then see Jocko and whoever else comes to immersion camp, and see my friends, that I only see once a year at immersion camp.
Yep.
And it's that time with them and my family being able to go with me. And, it's a really important thing that I recognized was important for me. It gives me the time to just recharge and come back and be better.
100%.
So,
and
and that's a version of cover and move for yourself.
That's what I was about to get at.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that's it. And, there's some people who, we've talked about the must be nice mentality before. Like,
it is.
Yeah, it is. Right. But there's also, you don't have to, not every piece of time off you take has to be some kind of like destination thing.
No.
You don't have to go to the beach every time. You don't have to do whatever. Like, we're gonna go down to Pflugerville and see my wife's great grandmother.
Cool.
Yeah, she's 92.
Dude, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna stay a couple of days with her, and then we're gonna go hike and do some stuff with the boys. Since we've had kids, we've done some staycations because there's plenty of stuff in Dallas to go see, and if there's some things that we know the two littles aren't going to be interested in, we kind of schedule it during nap time. Like, hey, during nap time, that's when we're going to go walk into the Dallas Museum of Art, because they're going to be crashed out in the stroller, and mom and dad can go and enjoy the artwork and make ridiculous comments really loudly to see what other people think about what we think about the artwork, and crack ourselves up. And so there's 100 different ways to do it, but it is cover and move for yourself. And it's cover and move for your family, because ultimately leadership, cover and move, all of those things are built on relationships. And not to get too deep into anything, we've talked about several times, when is the right time to fire? When's the right time to disengage in a relationship? And it's when you don't care anymore. That is really easy to do in your marriage. It's really easy to do with your family when you're not taking the time that's necessary to build those relationships with them. It is so easy to be working to provide for people that you no longer have relationships with. And all of this stuff goes back to that. If we're not investing in the relationships with the people that are in our home, with the people that are in our churches or other communities, with the people that are in our workplaces, then none of the work that we're doing, no matter how successful we may be in the eyes of others, because it's attached to a number or bank account or whatever, then it just doesn't matter. Yeah. And on the note of people that look like they're constantly on the grind, we put out a podcast every week. We do not record podcasts every week. No. There's a lot of our stuff that, the content, some of it may be relevant in the moment, but a lot of it is what's considered like, quote, evergreen, right? You can go back and listen to, and I've been doing it this year, you can go back and listen to the first 100 episodes of Jocko's podcast, and there's nothing that is so like culturally relevant to a specific moment in time that those first 100 episodes aren't still impactful. The books that are read, the topics that are talked about are so timeless. And, that's one of the things we've tried to do with this podcast as well, that like, hey, if you want to go back and you want to listen to, Ryan Vong's episode, the story that Ryan Vong tells about escaping Vietnam as a baby or as a child, with his infant brother, and having to hide him in rice paddies and underwater and all of that stuff. Yeah, that's insane. There's not going to be a moment in my life where I don't go back and listen to that and be like, oh, this is as relevant to me now, if not more so, now that I have kids and now that I've experienced some of this stuff, than it was at that moment. So, do that. Worry about making things that will last instead of always trying to do the thing. And it will make your life way better. A little backdating, a little planning, a little cover and move for yourself on the front end and saying, hey, you know what? We can do 2 of these this week. And then next week, we can just, maybe we can just go have dinner, be friends, hang out.
Yeah.
That's proven to be pretty good for our relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and before we close it out, you know, I just, you know, when we're thinking about cover and move and just the intentionality behind it, you know, it's one of those things where I'm thankful that I had good leaders in my life show me the value of building relationships. And that's something that we have to think about is like, okay, hey, are we setting the right example for the people around us? And when people don't do the right thing or say the right things, like we have an opportunity to either say something, correct it, give them feedback, advice, guidance, or we let it be. And if we let it be, we can't expect things to change in a positive direction. If we let things be, we can't expect things to change in a positive direction when it comes to human behavior. What we teach at Echelon Front is behaviors and tendencies. And if you want your behaviors and tendencies to improve and change, well, you have to create habits to change those things. And I'm thankful that I had good leaders. I also had bad leaders in my life that set the example of what I don't want to do. And, you know, at the end of the day, it comes down to you as an individual choosing to do the right things. It's on you as an individual to build relationships. It's on you as an individual to say, I'm sorry. It's on you as an individual to put in the work, to show your leadership respect, to show your peers respect, to show your team respect. Because if you don't have the trust, if you don't have respect, if you don't care about your people, if you're not allowing them to influence you, if you're not communicating and listening to them, you'll never have a relationship. So just something to think about
100%
as we go forward.
Well, we want to thank all of y'all for your support, for subscribing, for telling people about the podcast, for liking, following us on Instagram. That is one of the best ways to join the conversation. If you follow the @JP Dinnell podcast, follow @JP Dinnell. That's 2 N's, 2 L's, or you can follow me @Lucas Pinkard. And that's where most of our conversations in the real world are being had, is over there on Instagram. You'll notice if you follow us on Instagram, we've got some stuff that we do with the folks over at First In Nutrition. If you go to firstinnutrition.com/JPpod, they'll give you 4 free weeks, Jonathan will, of nutrition coaching. That's what they do. So they've started to do these.
You were thinking strength. You saw me over here flexing.
I saw you over there flexing.
I wasn't flexing. I was actually working on my gable grip. I was like, pull somebody in and try to break the ribs.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sorry. Got distracted.
Well, it was good. It was a good distraction.
It just distracted you.
So they've been doing these live sessions, and I might have an alias that I use on the First In Nutrition forums. So I felt really bad last week, and you'll love this because you know how the inside of my brain works. So they answered this question. It was a really, sometimes, Jeremiah, I do things before I think about them. That's the end of that statement. Mm-hmm. So there was a question that was asked where they were answering it. And the live stuff that they do on Thursday afternoon and Sunday afternoon is so great. So they do this little Q&A, and one of their clients had the opportunity to get more calories because she's been putting in the work. She's been losing weight. She's achieving her fitness goals. And now she's kind of upping some stuff, and they're increasing her calories because they have to. Mm-hmm. In order for her to continue to reach her goals with the fitness level that she's at. She's at that point, which is huge, right? Mm-hmm. That's a huge win. Struggling a little bit with balancing those things out. So they answered this very serious question. It's this super thoughtful answer. Meanwhile, I have already put into the chat, which at this point I want back. Like, I'm listening to this very thoughtful answer that is that they're working to be empathetic. They're talking about the emotional implications and, hey, listen, we understand where you've come from and you've made so much progress. And so they're trying to just provide so much care. And then they read my question, how long is ground beef good in the refrigerator? Cooked this taco meat 10 days ago, thinking about having it for lunch. Where I'm just like, I just need to retire from from asking questions in general. But I did promise everybody an update, and I'm doing fine.
Okay,
So
that's good.
that was it. But the information that they've got that they put out is phenomenal. Go check out their Instagram as well, and check out the Hump Day Health Hacks that we're doing with those guys. And they'll offer 4 free weeks of nutrition coaching. If you want to learn more about cover and move, you want to look at the other laws of combat, prioritize and execute, simple and decentralized command, do it at Echelon Front. Go to echelonfront.com or check out at Echelon Front, where all of the instructors that work with Echelon Front, JP, Jocko, Leif, Dave Burke, who his book's coming out in October.
Yes.
That's what I heard. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
The trilogy in the Extreme Ownership series.
Yeah. And his is called, what's his called?
Need to Lead.
Wow. That's just such a Top Gun name.
It's awesome. I love it.
It's awesome. So, Need to Lead by Dave Burke is coming out. Dave Burke, also one of the instructors, Jamie Cochran, and so many other just amazing people that you can learn from. They've got the Extreme Ownership Academy, where they've got online courses that you can take. There is a 1 o'clock Central Time Extreme Ownership Academy live call that you can get on, where instructors take live Q&A at the end of talking about one of the principles, one of the mindsets to victory or laws of combat. They're absolutely awesome. If you want JP, Jocko, Leif, Dave Burke, any of those instructors, Cody Gandy, who we've had on, Danny Ziem, I'm trying to think
Rob Jones.
Yeah, Rob Jones, Carlos Mendez, all these incredible people we've had on the show. To work with your company, shoot them an email at Echelon or info@echelonfront.com, and they'll get you hooked up with there. You can see it on our caps this morning. JP and I repping the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu hats. That is an organization that we both belong to. We do events periodically throughout the year where we bring in high-level jiu-jitsu instructors to come and to do free seminars. We have somebody share their testimony. Jocko Fuel helps us out with that stuff. And then throughout the year, we do some other things. We've got the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast, which comes out on every Tuesday. We've got some discipleship material that's coming down the pipe. We've got a ton of really cool new merch, which includes did you see the new hat? It was, you know what, you may not have, because it was at the Rollathon. You guys were at FTX. So the new hat is like a weatherproof, washable cap, and it's got some cool little Easter eggs on it. Like you flip it on the inside, printed like near the button, it says "Pray hard, train hard."
That's cool.
And yeah, it's super rad. So that's going to be coming out in a few weeks. And Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu will be at Jiu-Jitsu Con. So if you're going to be there, come by the booth, say hey to us. JP's a partner in a Texas beef company and talent company called Little Cattle Co.
Yeah, dog.
So go check them out if you need. They still got, I think there's still a few tomahawk steaks and stuff that are out there. There's some beef sticks that are out there. There is, if you have never tried an Apex blend, or a Predator blend is what some people call them, of ground beef, you guys still have some of that that's available online?
Yeah, the Apex Predator blend.
Yep. So what it is it's ground beef plus the organs. Mm-hmm. So you'll have a little bit of kidney, you have a little bit of liver, some heart in there, which provide some vitamins, iron, all kinds of stuff that you need in order to perform at the highest levels. Go check that stuff out. There's still some of that available online, as well as the invigorating body scrub, the beef tallow, the beef sticks. It's all there. If you want to be a wholesaler for any of those products, you can email Amanda at Little Cattle Co. And then whenever you're done there, you got your beef, you got all your gear set up. You're like, you know what, my company really needs? We need some apparel. We need people to know what we do. JP's wearing his Jocko Fuel shirt, so that as people, see him, they see this is what you could look like. You too could be huskular if you got on the path with Jocko Fuel. Man, make your team walking billboards, and you can do that by getting your stuff printed with On the Path Printing, who does all of your printing apparel needs. Check them out at onthepath.com. And then, we talked about doing cover and move for yourself. The best way to do that is by getting the best gear. And you can do that at Bruiser Arms. Yeah, Go check out Bruiser Arms with their custom gear packages with the, 4 to 6 inch all handmade box openers from the guys over there at Half Face Blades. Also, some custom training and stuff, and that's JP, Jocko, and Leif. The facilities that they've got are incredible. The gear packages that you guys put together are absolutely insane, and they'll tweak them the same way that they used them whenever they were there protecting our nation. And finally, to the folks who keep the podcast powered, they keep us clothed. It's folks over at Origin and Jocko Fuel. You know what I noticed this week is that they have they've redesigned my favorite shirt. So I'm wearing it today. I'm wearing the old school RTX shirt. They've got a new version of this that I'm really excited about. So the RTX is roll, train, execute. And it is their like basic athletic shirt, which with these and the Cortez, if you buy 3 or more of them or some things in that set, then you save, I think like 20 or 30% off of it whenever you do that. Yeah. So super cool. But yeah, they're doing the RTX runs again. So that's all my wardrobe is black RTX shirts or that style. Nice. And like, that's it. So Kirsten got the email alert. I got the email alert and she's like, hey, it's time to buy your new shirts for this year, which will all be the black RTX shirts. So those are great. The new Rift gi is out. The flip-flops, the thong sandals. If you've been keeping up with the Instagram posts, they're doing a giveaway until they get it right. So this has been a really fun Instagram series to watch because like they'll send the shoe to Pete and then they'll show the recording of Pete going, I hate it. I hate the way that it feels. It feels like a wimpy shoe.
Those release on August 13th. For some,
oh, do they really?
I believe.
Yeah. So if you, while they're finishing everything up, they've got the Instagram like every day until they get like the full on stamp and approval. You can enter to win a pair of those just by commenting and sharing the Instagram post. And so I don't know if I'm eligible to win or not, but I am commenting and sharing the Instagram post every day. So people have just been flooded with that. And then the folks over at Jocko Fuel making the cleanest supplements in the game. If you want to gain weight, if you want to lose weight, like our buddy Ethan Bernard has done, like who's making some just incredible progress right now. Just did his first 5K.
That's awesome.
Walked it. It was pretty rad. And then his strength coach is going to be in town at the Pro Strongman League, sponsored by Jocko Fuel, which is there. Awesome. So check it out. Go to jockofuel.com. Use code JPPOD20. It'll save you 20% on all of your purchases, which is nearly what they give the employees. So thank you very much to Maddie West and the Jocko Fuel team for making that happen. And I'm going to toss it over to you for some final thoughts.
Cover and move is the base of everything that we teach because it's about relationships. And if we don't have really good, strong relationships with people, we don't have influence. And if we don't have influence, we can't lead. And the world needs leadership more than ever. We need people being able to step up and lead their peers, lead their teams, lead their leaders, lead their spouses, lead their families. So I kind of want to close you guys out with a challenge is to think about a relationship that you have in your life that as you think about it, you recognize there needs to be some improvement there. And so I'm going to encourage you to be default aggressive, to reach out to that person, apologize, talk through that problem, take ownership, and, create a solution to rebuild that relationship. So I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that's needed, to put in the effort, to build your legacy, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 98.